time.
I love it. I need some leg warmers. I got rid of mine.
Oh my God, they're my favorite thing in the whole world.
And scarves. I'm a huge scarf person.
Yes, anything
And
cozy and warm and snuggly and fall.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
So how are you feeling today?
Good. I've been envisioning. I've been in envisioning mode and rest and replenish and contemplate. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Nice. Yeah, I was, my client mentioned this to me earlier today. She was feeling the same way, that yesterday a little, but then today definitely so tired. Couldn't sleep last night, but so just tired. And so I definitely had one of those slower mornings where also visioning and contemplating and whatever. And then I just got this and this happens for me very often, especially like if I'm sick or something, when I'm so grounded, it's just almost this like get her done energy with like a little bit of anger, but it's not that like, rawr. It's just like, all right, I'm just getting this shit done, like feeling super grounded. And
yeah.
So yeah.
I've been like grounding into the warmth feeling because I have to be really cognizant of keeping those two dynamics in balance, because whenever I get slowed down, it's because something big is about to drop in, or like I'm about to receive something really big. So it's like, okay, you exerted all this energy and effort and you expressed and you shared and you contributed. So now we need you to just chill for a bit and let yourself integrate and receive, charge.
Same.
And always in that space, something huge comes in. So yes. So it's been kind of dreamy. It's fun. I'm ready for my next round of like desire, you know. A few big desires have come in over the past several weeks, and I'm really feeling really thankful for that. And so they're like, okay, it's cool to just step back for a minute and let yourself receive some more energy. And in that, I've been conjuring up my next. I'm like, okay, cool. So those things manifested. So what do I want to manifest next? So it's just been that place of desire and creating new visions. So it feels good to be there.
Yeah, no, I totally feel the same way. It's like that's that ebb and flow relationship. And it used to be, when I was first kind of getting used to these energies and my own flow, if you will. It used to be that I'd expand so much and exert so much of that fire energy, and then the universe would just like knock me on my feet. I'd get sick, or I'd just be so like heavy and lethargic for a few days because I don't listen very well. So like, okay, we're gonna force you to slow down and chill out. And I am grateful for when that happens now. I mean, it's not so extreme for me anymore, but even like today, like I can tell that I'm having this energy because it's the universe's way, my own self's way of just like forcing me to slow down and chill out and just receive. And I'm really grateful because, back when I just really was struggling with grounding in trust and trust in myself and trust in my expansion, and balancing those, unifying those, it's almost like when you're that physically exhausted or sick or knocked on your feet, you have no choice but to trust. Like you don't even have the choice. You don't even have the energy to be in resistance anymore. So yeah, so today I just feel very like, like whatever lingering resistance I had to certain things, it's just my energy's not there to have it. So I'm very much like just kind of knocking off the to-do list, doing some stuff I've been needing to do or wanting to do, but really feeling grounded in that next level of expanded, like, okay, just give this to me now. Like, okay, I'm ready now. Whatever,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
softening into.
Yeah. It's fun to play in desire and what do I want and what do I want to create next, and let that energy build up so that once you decide what that new expanded desire is, when you are fully charged, you have the clear direction to start moving in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's always waves of that coming in, and the faster it gets, the faster it gets. I noticed now, I was really reflecting on this today and appreciating this, how much things are coming in quantity now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And just really, well, recognizing that there's no limitations, that there's always, we can ask for more and more and more and receive more, and then help other people reach for more and create more, and just tapping into the unlimited potential of energy itself, and how there's always, I was thinking about the space in between um, stuff, matter. And I think Eckhart Tolle speaks to this, not in The Power of Now, but maybe in A New Earth, where he talks about what is there the most abundance of in a room. If you look around, there's furniture and all of this, but it's space. And that space is what matter is created from. So there's a never ending supply of potentiality for us to create from. And it's there's no lack of abundance anywhere. You can imagine and envision and fix your attention on what you want and live in the feeling and the knowing of having it already, and it just starts to appear, and it's just magical. And there's just a never-ending supply of that substance, and that's the gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just realizing exactly what you just said, that you just can keep on going. You just can keep, there's no setbacks, there's no limitations, there's nothing holding you back, there's no lack, there's no shortage, there's no outage. You don't have to hold back and let other people take their turn or whatever. Like,
Right.
keep
Mm-hmm.
asking, just keep asking, just keep receiving, just keep asking, just keep receiving. It's just like staying
Yeah.
in that full force of play now and constant motion. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what we're grounded in now, and it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did anything come up for you with the full moon, just out of curiosity?
Well, I did stand under the full moon last night and just kind of let that shimmering silver energy flow through me. And it felt just very refreshing. It felt very cooling and cleansing. And so I think, if anything, just cleansing, really, just releasing judgments. Mostly judgments I realize that I hold towards myself that aren't, if I'm not paying attention, they can just, they're so prevalent. They've been prevalent for so long, and they're not like big, huge things, but where I'm in resistance to myself or where I judge myself. So I just kind of let the moon wash over me and take some of those judgments away, because I was noticing places where I still go, oh, well, maybe I should have done this, or I could have done this. And the energy was just like, no, it's perfect. It's all leading into more expanded awareness. So I just kind of let the energy of the moon wash over me and cleanse some of those judgments out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
What was coming up for you?
Very similar. Just feeling like I'm letting go of a lot of judgments that they're they're not major, but they're there and I'm aware of them now. And it's just like, yeah, F it. Like, I'm letting go of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did notice a few things where I was feeling like certain, just one or two things in my life, I was still almost feeling like they take my freedom away or blaming them for that, just very subtly. It was real subtle. And that wasn't what was on the forefront, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love to dig and get to the root. And so very quickly, I'm just like, okay, what's at the root? What's at the root? What's at the root? Ah, like disempowerment, taking away your freedom. No, not going to have that anymore.
Uh-huh. And two, what's coming through around that is doubt. Taking away freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Like almost like, well, I mean, I suppose that disempowerment or giving our power away is just where we don't know who we are, and that the answer is yes. And that, so it's like some level of uncertainty or doubt, and just letting that kind of, wash away. Just let it wash away. It's just learning to look at the world in a different way, and to look at ourselves in a different way, I think.
Right.
What was coming up for me this morning in a conversation I was having, I thought was kind of funny, because I've been so feisty lately, in that like trickster Heyoka, like loving antagonist energy, and just being really fiery about it. And I could feel some of that starting to like release too a little bit, because I've been in that mode probably for a few months. But I think that it ties back in a little bit to what you're saying, where when I started to have all these new revelations and awakenings to truth, I was kind of mad at the spiritual community for not being honest. And I realized how I wasn't being honest with myself, and how prevalent that is, that we all do that. And albeit it's mostly unconscious, it's not all unconscious. And I think those are the pieces that I was feeling anger at. I was feeling that kind of fiery, because it's not all unconscious. A lot of it is intentional. And that's like where I was, the lack of transparency around certain things. And I realized how much I allowed that to influence my relationship that I was having with myself, and all the ways that I was not being fully honest with myself about certain things. But anyways, but there's just definite disempowerment in that lack of transparency. And I feel like I'm ready to kind of start releasing that. I'm recognizing that the bulk majority of it is super unconscious, and people don't realize they're doing it. It's like, it's kind of like everybody is doing the best for where they're at. But I encountered a lot of the other end of that spectrum this year, as you know, where it was like intentional, and I was trying to reconcile that within myself, which made me really angry at I think mostly angry at a lot of people who know the truth and aren't speaking the truth, because of what is currently so widely accepted, and what that truth might cause for them or catalyze in their life. But I feel myself caring less and less. Just about even getting entangled in any of that at all anymore. I'm more now so inclined to just focus on creation, because I feel like at this point I have it down to a science, and I absolutely trust that anybody who comes under our wings can learn how to create exactly what they want. And it feels like a more fun and more efficient way of utilizing energy to teach people how to do that, to teach people how to set themselves free through their own creative faculties. Instead of, and just allowing everybody else to have their own journey, allowing spirituality to have its own journey. I was kind of relating it in my mind back to like some of the systems that are in place in the world that we're starting to see crumble, and how they, even though I wouldn't say they have the most integrous way of going about things, they still are in service, and they have served us in such profound ways. And it's naturally going to dissolve and reform into something new. And it's the same with spirituality, and the way that we have been leading and guiding one another. All of that old construct is also going to collapse in on itself, and something new will emerge, which makes me really excited for the inner circle. Oh, I can't wait. I'm just mostly so excited about teaching people how to create what they want, because man, that's been my obsession for my entire life. And I think with these recent integrations that came through, there were just some pieces of the puzzle that needed to click into place that did click into place. So it was beautiful to have those questions answered. Yeah. And to get it down to a science, right? Where you know that you can create the thing every single time that you want to create the thing, and not just, and we were talking about this, I think it was just you and I privately, but we were talking about like creating half of the thing that you want, or only creating occasionally, or, you know, and to finally, I think there's a level of peace in me now too, now that I understand how to use the power of will to consistently create and to consistently manifest. And yeah.
Yeah, and with a number of things, because for me, it wasn't that I doubted my abilities. It's just that I wasn't fully harnessing them to max potential with certain things, right? So I had to go through all of the ways I was disempowering myself or locking myself down or not trusting and believing in that. And now I agree, it like feels like they're saying integration complete. Integration complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, my whole thing has always been, well, a couple of things that tie into this. One, just blatant honesty and truth. Like I always have been the person that just wants everybody to just be honest. Like, let's just get it out there. Let's just admit this to ourselves. Let's just surrender. Let's move on. So that's like one form of like liberation that's always been ingrained in me. And the other thing is just that quest for truth. People just knowing who they really are, who they are at their core, what they're capable of, like releasing all of the just weight on top of their heads and their shoulders and that heavy cloak and that heavy mask of who they think they have to be or who they've been taught to be, or and understanding and allowing themselves to create freely. Like 5 years ago, you know, that was probably the hardest thing on my journey. Was it just was like it's like I was looking up above and just going like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me who I am. Just tell me what my purpose is. Just, I would see people all around me have that. And I wanted that so bad. I just wanted to know like my sense of purpose or direction or creativity or whatever. Well, I already knew deep down inside. I just hadn't been admitting it to myself for years, one. And two, all the guidance I got, even when I worked with coaches and intuitives and channelers and whatever, it was just like, well, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I'm like, because I was so used to being like a doting servant, and I just wanted my role and my box and whatever. And like, I just wanted that sense of relief, like, just get me going somewhere and then I'll tell you guys what I want to do. Like,
They're like, well, you've got to tell us what you want before we can get you going anywhere.
Exactly. And that's, you know, that's my other thing. And so all of that tied into one is harnessing those magical, supernatural capabilities and powers and tapping into the unknown and living in this magical world that can be reality. I mean, I remember when I started opening up to my gifts more and more, I mean, and it just flooded me, went full force. You know, it's kind of like people who are looking to connect with their spirit guides, and then all of a sudden they've got like aliens by their side. I mean, that's just what it was like for me. Again, a big sign that like, we're not going to let you play it safe, basically. And when all that started coming through full force for me, still I was disempowering myself. I just wrote a post about this earlier on how I was using those gifts and those powers to disempower myself. I wasn't using them for my benefit. I was like using them as another way to create and reinforce my beliefs around being disempowered and not being allowed to like channel that full force. And now I feel so much, you and I both talked about this so much, like breaking free of all of that and admitting how freaking powerful we are, and some of the crazy supernatural things we've created, and some of the like physical manifestations we've created, and taking ownership over that, right? Like it's okay. Here's what's coming through. It's okay to admit and take ownership of the shit that you just don't even believe it was possible for you to create. Like, okay, let's take the weather, for example, because I know you've really kind of mastered the weather. Me, here and there, I don't care about it that much, so I haven't.
Yeah.
So, like, you've mastered the weather, right? So let's say you, like, ask for a thunderstorm or something, and then it's not even supposed to rain. It's supposed to be sunny and 80 degrees, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes this big old massive thunderstorm or whatever. It's okay to take ownership of that. Be proud of that. Like, you are not just some bystander who randomly imagined, oh, wouldn't it just be nice if there was and there was a thunderstorm. Thank you, God. Thank you, heavens above. No, you created that. Own it. And don't, I mean, obviously, like, don't tell people about certain things until you're really grounded in that power, because it's going to keep you wavering. But get rid of the voices in the back of your head of what you think people would respond to or say, or all of the doubts or all of the judgments. Like, why can't you just say, like, oh, I created Mother Earth. Oh, I created this. And this kind of plays into, too, in spirituality. This is funny that this is coming up. Because you and I are both really big powerhouses of, like, galactic energy. I mean, I've tapped into some crazy shit for you. I've been guided and told some crazy shit that is who I am and what I do and whatever. But there's so much ego wrapped up in that. And I remember when I started really diving into this world and being shown all of these things, I'd see these people who are like, well, I'm an elder of the galactic galaxy of the Arcturians, and I'm a universal gatekeeper of the sun and the solar system, and I do this. And I just was like, wow, like, how do they know this about themselves? That's like, so, oh my God, that's crazy. I just, and there's this, like, hierarchy that comes with this, and this ego that comes with it. But what we're wanting you to recognize, and this is what I recognized in myself, because every time I looked at somebody or read something along those lines, my guides would always be like, well, you can do that. Well, you do that. You're also that. Yep, that's you too. That's you too. And I just kind of didn't think anything of it. And then your mind goes a little bit and, like, are we just making all this shit up? And in a way we kind of are, because
we are.
We're making, we're being, we're living. Like, that's the essence of what it really is. And so I guess what I'm just trying to say is, like, believe, like, be God, will things in force. Don't give a F about the other things that created the rainstorm. No, you created that. Okay, just own it. And the owning that is not. Okay, I'm speaking to the logical mind here. The point in admitting that is not whether or not you actually created it. It's just to get you to step into the energy of that creator power state.
Yeah, absolutely. And reinforcing that, I think in the very beginning of what you're just speaking to, I was feeling the immense power that comes with those creations, and letting ourselves really feel that powerful and be that powerful, and how that opens up just this whole, it's almost like a wormhole, they're saying. It's just like this whole portal into this new way of living and being. And I, for a while, because it's me and I'm silly, especially when I first started learning how to master the elements, I felt bad. I'm like, well, what if the earth doesn't need water right now? Or what if, and they're like, well, you're having this desire, trust that you have this desire and let yourself create this. And then as soon as it was happening every single time, that I was doing the invocation, I could start to own that and then shift that same energy into other creations and creating other things using that same energy and having that non-resistance to what I was creating and to being that powerful. I mean, I think that's been a huge part of my personal journey, has just been allowing myself to be so immensely powerful and creating the things that I desire to create and not feeling bad about it and not feeling resistance towards it, not thinking I needed to do anything in particular to earn that, not shying away from it, not cowering back or down and putting that power outside of myself anymore.
And what they're bringing me to now, I mean, this is why people go through initiations. Do you need the initiation? No, you just need someone or something outside of yourself that you trust in more, that you believe in more, to give you permission to harness what you're already actually capable of. Like they're showing me almost a shamanic ceremony where you're like initiated into a society, or like even some of the fun little stuff we have planned in our inner circle. You know, we've got some initiations planned, but it's not because you need to go through an initiation. It's just because we're just lighting you up. We're just giving you more permission. We're just telling you more of who you are, so you'll ground in that.
Well, they're showing me too. I mean, life will initiate you one way or another, because it's the desire of all consciousness to know itself, to expand itself, to create more for itself, to live more fully and to express source energy more fully. And so that initiation will find you, you know, and I feel like life has been my greatest initiator. One thing that I recognize that I wanted to speak to a little bit earlier with some of the masterminds that I've been involved in, and feeling deeply thankful for the gifts that they did give me. But I realized for most people, it's like they're creating specific results for themselves, but they didn't know how to reproduce that or how to translate that into helping others create those same results. So it was almost like they were initiated in some way through their own personal journey, but they weren't fully able to translate how that occurred. They were just initiated through their own process. And so I think it's really valuable to know and to pay attention to, and to know when we go through these initiations and these experiences, to note what works and how it works and why it works, and to connect all of those dots so that it can be replicated over and over in all the different areas of our lives, depending on what it is that we desire and what we want to create. Yeah,
and it's with stuff like that where I say, you know, if you feel like you don't know, or you feel like you aren't, you are, but learn how to channel, or just be a channel. Just channel through, okay, what about this worked? You know, like, don't sit and think and ruminate on it, because you already know exactly why it worked, how it worked, the specifics, everything. So just allow that flow and that stream of consciousness, so you're not stuck wondering and thinking about it over a few days.
Yeah. And trust yourself. I mean, I think the greatest gifts of some of those groups that I participated in was finding my own empowerment through them. And I mean, I kind of realized on some level too, that I really had a deep understanding of energy and how the energy creates, how it translates from non-substance into matter, from nothingness into physical form. And I realized that so many people around me were like almost very uncertain of themselves still. And so empowerment was the greatest gift that I got out of those experiences, albeit inadvertently. It wasn't, and that was the thing. It was like an inadvertent, it was a gift that was given indirectly. Is that really loud?
You got some giggle monsters.
I do. I have giggle monsters. Oh, they're cute. Oh, we have a new housemate who is Dutch, and she has this cute American flag throw with fringes coming off the edges. I almost want to wrap myself in it. It's funny.
That's sweet.
Oh yeah, it's cute. Yeah.
No, that is such a crazy thing when you watch your perception shift and you realize how disempowered somebody is that you thought was so empowered at one point. It's such a crazy shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that we have to give one another is empowerment and inspiration to create our lives. I think that, and so often we're told not to worry about the how. And I guess I see that in like not worrying about the orchestration of how it's going to come to pass. But there is a how. There is an art to this. There is a science to this, and it works every single time when you know what it is and you know and you mastered it. It's just that we typically happen upon it in bits and pieces almost. So they're showing me like a stained glass window or a puzzle where it's like you go into a certain experience and you collect a piece of the puzzle or a piece of the stained glass window, and then when you come to that completion point, all of them fit together to form this beautiful picture, and you finally have all the pieces. And so in some really beautiful way, we're all just helping one another to awaken and evolve and remember and step into our power and our sovereignty and to create. Because what greater freedom is that, is knowing your ability to create and knowing your ability to do it constantly and consistently. For whatever it is that you desire. It doesn't even really matter what the desire is. You know, people come to me for totally different things. But a lot of people come to me for power. They want to find their power. They want to feel and experience their power. So empowerment is number one. People come to me for alignment. Somebody came to me last year for literally enlightenment, learning how to embody themselves as God. People come to me for wealth. People come for all different types of things. So whatever it is that you're trying to expand into, doesn't matter. It's just knowing that you have the power and the capacity to expand into it, whatever it may be, that adds more to your life, you know, that adds more to your experience.
And I love that you bring up the how, because you can also create the how. You also have over the how. It's just that typically when somebody is wanting to decide the how, there is a struggle for control, which comes from worry, which comes from fear. So you really have to be balanced, unified, aligned, detached. Any sort of reasoning or judgment or belief about the how, and then you can create the how. Because I've created the how plenty of times. There's plenty of times when I have not created the how, because there was just even an ounce. If there is just an ounce of doubt or fear or worry or the need to control or fight or victim, just like 0.001%, like it's not, you're not going to create the how. It's not going to be just smooth, crystal clear. I mean, some of it will line up, but not all of it.
Yeah, and they're showing me too that the key in that is non-attachment. And they're showing me, so like the attractive force is gratitude and the repelling force is doubt and worry. So that's what kind of controls the direction of the creation. But just by virtue of setting a really powerful intention and desire, all the moving pieces of creation begin to reorganize and rearrange themselves to fulfill that desire. And if you stay in a space of knowing, trust, gratitude, then that thing will come to you all the faster. And that's what the attractive force is. Approval, which is another word for gratitude. It's just deeply approving of and appreciating everything, which is why I kind of feel myself like wanting to release some of that resistance I was hanging on to around the lack of transparency, because I just don't want to allow it to affect me anymore or my creations. And there's really no need to hold on to it. but there's that attachment that can be formed too when we try to play with the how. So it's really a fine art when you're working at that level of mastery, because you have to be so aware and so conscious of, is your energy allowing everything to move around? Are you creating resistance by getting attached to the how and needing it to be in that very specific way? So the thing is, you can set the intention and you can orchestrate the how in the way that you want the how to come, but you have to remain completely and utterly unattached, which means you can't care if it happens in that way or not. But by virtue of that, it does. So it's an interesting dance. It's definitely an art form. I really appreciate, they're showing me like crystals, like pointed crystals. But sometimes people use sharpened crystals to do energy work in the body and the meridian systems. And I have some people on my team who do that for me. And how fine-tuned and how much of an art it is when they're working in my energy in that way. And I kind of am seeing those crystals, and it's us, giving the details to our creation, to our painting, to what it is that we want to manifest. And yeah, I'm just painting that picture, but then still staying open and fluid and unattached to that. And I think that when it's typically for most people, when it's a smaller manifestation that they can intuitively say yes to, and they know there won't be any resistance or attachment, it's not a big deal if it manifests either way. It's applying that same energy to the big things. Can you be at peace and at one with yourself and your life as it is while that thing is translating into physical form? Or do you start to sense or feel that attachment because of the size of the desire, or, belief patterns around what is or isn't possible for you? Yeah. And sometimes it's just catalyzing that first big manifestation for people that will help them to shift beyond all of that very quickly.
Yep. I'm being called to share some of your magical powers with us, Solara.
Oh, okay. So what kind? What do you want to know?
Whatever comes through, whatever comes up when we ask that.
What's coming through for me right now is I am that I am that I am, and there is no greater force, power, or source that exists anywhere outside of myself. So as I give a command to my reality, to energy, to life itself, all elements begin to rearrange and orchestrate themselves on my behalf. And there is no waver in that. There is no doubt or uncertainty in the knowingness of who I am and my power and potential to create. So I formulate that command based upon what it is that I want and desire to experience. And I trust that all of nature, all of the formless and the formed begin to work on my behalf, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And this is where the power of influence comes in. So I embody myself as all that is. I expand my energy out into the far reaches of the infinite totality of creation. And I can envision that in my own interior landscape. I think that's the biggest piece for me, like having that vision. So if you can imagine that you have no boundary and no distinction between you and the person next to you, or the trees or the mountains or the stars or the sun, and you can recognize yourself as all of that. So when you give a command to yourself, your whole self, it begins to meet you with that command. And that's a very big energy to hold. But holding yourself in the embodiment of that and trusting fully that all of you is working on your behalf to manifest your desire is profoundly powerful. You can stay in that expanded space of knowing. And this is where we bridge that divide of separation, not being separate from any part of ourselves, living in a non-dual experience where we are not separate from any of it. And some of those forces will work consciously on our behalf and some unconsciously, because this is where, if the free will is not being utilized, it will unconsciously start to meet your desire because it's been given a command to do so. And it will listen because it just hasn't accessed its own potential yet. And so it has a higher likeliness of being influenced by the forces that are greater and stronger than it. And the forces that are greater and stronger than it are the ones that know who and what they are.
Right.
And so that's what I think the most powerful invitation that I have to people is to swiftly recognize or ask to have it revealed to you who and what you are fully, so that you can get in the embodiment of that, and so that you don't ever have to give your power away again to any external force or source of energy. Because most aspects of creation, most, not all, will, and this is why we see so few fully realized, actualized beings on the planet, will continue to give, they will individuate themselves in some way, whether it is small or large, and they will put that power outside of themselves in some way instead of fully being it, embodying it, and living as it, not separating themselves from it. So there's always a degree of separation that I notice in most people's energy, whether it's, like I said, big or small. And that is what keeps them from their next level of expanded potential to create. But what if you were the creator? What if you could get past your ego that will tell you not to step fully into that, and be that, and allow yourself to be that? Then there would be no other force that could have a greater influence over you than that which you could have over yourself. So staying in the expanded energy of that, staying in your power.
Yeah, almost what they're showing me during part of what you were explaining is if you look at, let's say, like vanity mirrors, or not mirrors, lights. The lights above a mirror, a vanity mirror, those like big, bulky bulbs, and there's like 5 of them in a row. Well, if one bulb goes out, are all the other bulbs gonna like send some of their energy over to that one bulb to like get it to light up a little bit, so then all the lights are like they're on, but they're just not full force? Like no. So stop doing that in your own reality. Stop doing that for yourself. That's so much of what we have said before, but I totally agree with you on that. And that's why I love the fact that I'm so tuned into like galactic expansion so much, because when it started happening to me or coming to me, it was a little, I felt random, because so many people have these stories of like, oh yeah, I remember that as a little kid, or I was always into that, or I always blah, 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 blah. And that never was me. So it's very random, but I love that because it's constantly, force is not the right word, but just drawing me to expand my energy, because I'm constantly on a daily basis being shown how to explore different frequencies, different powers, different thought processes, different manifestations, different colors, different realms of the future. I'm always being shown more, what's to come, what we're capable of, what's there, what's out there, and all these unseen outer realms. And it's being consciously tuned into that keeps me so expanded, because it immediately detaches me from so much of my surroundings or manifestations or things that I'm calling in for my human to experience. It detaches me from them, because I realize the next big thing, the next wave of potential, then what else is really out there. So those things that used to be big to my human are now quite small to me, and saying that without judgment.
I think so. What they're showing me now is, can you look at the things that are in your physical environment and recognize them as you? I have, during this most recent integration that I had, that's something that I began to really viscerally experience. I was able to see myself in the reflection of everything, whether it was a house or a light or a person. but really feeling and sensing myself as all of that. And so, and for me, that includes looking at, the ocean and the mountains and the stars and what they're saying now too, or they were saying as you were speaking, which is really beautiful. We often think that we are under the command of the stars, but what the stars are helping us to realize is that they are under the command of us. Yeah. And that is how powerful we are. Yeah. So to even step into that space of power can be quite an experience for people to shift all the way into that. And depending on the individual, there may be certain fixed belief structures or resistances that they have to work through before they fully allow themselves to be that. And some people will never fully allow themselves to be that in this lifetime. I mean, eventually all consciousness realizes itself, who and what it is, and allows itself to go there. But sometimes it takes a few rounds because you recognize that you're not asking from anything but yourself. You're not commanding anything from anything other than yourself, and all elements of creation are there to support you thriving and you fulfilling your desires and you experiencing more abundance and plenitude. And so you just have to get into the space of commanding that in your reality. And so being very centered in your power is first and foremost. And the reason that the stars operate the way that the stars do is because consciousness has formulated it to be such, which means that consciousness can create new agreements with the stars. Yes. And with the solar system and with all of these different things, we just need to form new agreements. So it's important to form a new agreement with ourselves. I will allow myself to be this. I will recognize that I am, that I am, that I am. I will allow myself to stand fully in my power and command what it is that I want for my life, and to release all of the sacrificial, overly, excessively humble energy that keeps us disempowered, and to just be in a space of, because when you're in that power, there's a natural, to even have that realization, there has to be a certain level of gratitude that's already present within a being to even come to that awareness, to even have that recognition, to step fully into that. It's just known at a certain point that is there. And so just a good place to start for anybody who's listening, if you want to create something in your experience and you don't feel like you're fully embodied at that expanded level of awareness yet, let me give you like some tools here. What you can do now. Well, it's just really about commanding what you want and fixing your attention only on what you want. That is the most expansive use of will, to say, this is what I want to create, to make a firm, solid yes decision, and to start living in the energy of having it. If you have to pretend, if you have to imagine that it's there with you, that's great. But you need to find a way to get yourself in the having of it. So first is making that essential command, and then moving your energy in the direction of realizing it, but also living in the energy of having it. I can't tell you how many countless times in my life, but only because my level of belief is here, things have materialized for me out of thin air. They have shown up in my reality. They have materialized. They have appeared. They have come to me. And that's a potential that's available to all of us, because consciousness is always creating. It is our thought and our will that directs the movement of the energy to create form. Mm-hmm. So when we focus our will and our thought into a specific image that is detailed, and we start living in the energy of having it, and not just that, but the vision of having it, pretending it's there with you, getting yourself in the state of having, and you don't waver, you don't move in other directions, you don't start playing in the energy of, well, what if it doesn't come, or needing to fixate on it. You just know, that it's going to come. So formulate a very clear, focused, and specific desire, give that command to the universe, and live in the energy of having that thing now. How would you live if you had that thing now? Start doing that. Start making very ambitious plans. Ask bigger, ask bolder, ask wider. Creation wants to supply you with everything that you need. So it's really just fixing your attention on all that you want to have and not worrying about all the things that you need to do to make that thing happen. You just start flowing your energy in the direction of that, and shifting the direction of your attention to it. And being the person you would be if that stuff was already there.
Yeah. And what else is coming through for me? Same thing, just different wording, but when you make those commands to really allow yourself to feel that expanded energy, call forth whatever you feel like is the most powerful forces there are to mankind, known to mankind of nature. Like call forth the power of the solar system, the power of Mother Earth, the power of lightning, the power of mountains. Like that's that kind of being one with it all thing, because that's going to like shift your vibration massively to get you into that expansion. Sometimes that's part of what people struggle with is
Mm-hmm.
not even knowing how to really full force get that expanded. So like get big and personify that big. Make that big, call it into you, call it forth, call it into your being. And then just like you're saying, like stay with it no matter what. Now, what else is coming through is when things show up in your reality in the period of space between you and the having of the thing or whatever you're manifesting, when things show up in your reality that typically would prove to you that you don't have it or it's not coming or it's not real, it's in those moments you have to be so dedicated and so focused. Give it another meaning. Give it another reason. Don't detach from what that's always meant.
And yeah, exactly. Give it another meaning. That was a huge thing with me, for me with omens in particular, because certain things would show up in my reality before certain events transpired. And it happened in that way for such a long time that I associated certain omens with certain manifestations. And I had to change that. And what they're showing me now is that, well, you have the ability to change that. But when you give that command, so a few things are coming through. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So no, I'm not. I'm going to start with what you just said, and then I'm going to go to the beginning. So with what you just said, when you're in that space, especially when you're starting to consciously create your reality, you will be manifesting both from your conscious and your unconscious simultaneously. So some evidence from your old level of consciousness will still be showing up. You need to give it an empowering meaning. You need to just give it, that's it. You change what it means. You change, okay, well, this used to mean this for me. Now it means this, or it means I'm just getting a reflection of my unconscious. That's cool. I'm shifting into something new now. And new things will start to transpire for me. New things will start to manifest for me. Not giving power away to things like that. And then they're saying to close the space in between the command and the having. So with the command, something that I learned to do, because I still invoke certain deities and elements and things like that to support the manifestation of my desire. But at a certain point, it can, depending on where I am with my commanding energy, it can feel like a chore because I'm so attuned to so many of them and I have relationships with so many of them. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave you out because I love you. And but then it gets to be like a 5-page long list of just naming forces. So what I do now is I say, I consciously direct all of me. So it is every single aspect and piece and particle of creation that is moving on my behalf. So I consciously direct and command all of me to fill in the blank. And so that's an all-encompassing, powerful way to kind of like hit your mark, undoubtedly. And so they're saying to close the space between that command and the having by living in the having, literally acting like it is there now, claiming it fully for yourself, owning that that is your reality and your experience. And you're not going to let any sign or symbol or omen or manifestation of your old consciousness get in the way of your yes. So, I mean, the fact is that when you make a command to creation, the answer is always yes. So it's just an undoubtable, unquestionable thing. Only we are the ones who bring doubt to those things. So as soon as we make the command, we have to start living with the assumption that it's already here. So what would shift and change? Who would you be? How would you show up? How would you walk, talk, live? What actions would you take? What would you plan for? What would you wear? What would you do? Blank, blank, blank. And do all of that now. That speeds up the manifestation, because you are demonstrating your readiness, your preparation. You are meeting your desire with your energy. You are living in the expanded energy, so that you can align to the expanded energy. So close that space, close that gap. Don't even give it any wiggle room. You make the command and you get to living it in as many ways as you can. And whatever isn't fully tangibly realized yet or manifested yet, you just pretend that damn thing is there.
Right, because if you're in the space of having it, I mean, it's an automatic. Like, there would be no doubt, there would be no question. That's your state of being and living with it.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the peace and the empowerment and the joy can come from. And that's where the magic comes from, because the answer is always yes. So you can live in a constant state of commanding and receiving what you want. Yeah, and you don't have to keep riding that wave. I think that was a thing that I contended with early on in my journey, as I wasn't sure how to duplicate certain things in my life. And so I would waver back and forth between these really expansive periods of manifestation and creation, but I couldn't stay expanded. I would always dip back to the opposite end of that spectrum. And so now that doesn't happen for me. I don't go into the expanded state and then come out of the expanded state. I've learned how to find equilibrium so that I can stay expanded and hold that space and be in that power continuously, without having to go into those low lows anymore. Man, I went through it too. I went through it, man. I went to those low lows. And those high highs, and I just that was a desire that I had. And I mean, I asked for whatever I want. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to stay empowered. I wanted to stay in the space of magic. And so that's what I called forth. Yeah. So whatever it is that you want, you can ask for it. This does not just equate to physical, tangible things. This equates to states of being, ways of being. You can ask for that.
Exactly.
I want to live where the magic is. I don't want to come out of that space. I don't want to waver. I don't want to falter. I don't want to jump up real high and then come down real low. I want to live in the space where magic lives.
Yeah, you want that to be your being, which is what we're doing in the inner circle, is grounding you in that energy. So there's no more wavering. There's no more disempowerment, basically. It's just you constantly staying in the alignment and the balance of that frequency, and asking big and going big and expanding big, and then staying without having to ride that roller coaster that is exhausting, of those highs and those lows. It's just it's just being. It's just a brand new energetic state.
Yeah, and that's what I call it, energetic mastery now, because that's what it is. There is no more wobble. There is no more waver. It is energetic mastery. And that's what most all of consciousness is reaching for, is that how can I stay in that sovereign space of creator energy? And this is why I offer on call to my clients, because usually when you start to step into that energy, if you don't have a good support system that's there to empower you and hold you in that space while you acclimate and adjust to that, to kind of reassure you until you don't need anyone else to reassure you anymore, that's where we get into those, I'm going to call it a shit storm, because it's kind of what it is, where all of what people would consider blocks, limiting beliefs, all of that start to kind of fly up in a frenzy. And we start to feel all of that. But I like to take people from where they are now to where they want to go without doing all of the unconscious unwinding and all the block removal. Whenever we focus energy on something, it gets activated. The only thing I like to do with those spaces is bring awareness to them and then empower the shift. I don't need to spend time with them. We don't need to unravel it unless that's something you want to do for yourself and that feels aligned to you. That's great. But like, I'm just about taking you from where you are, from where you to where you want to go. And so there's a massive energetic shift in that, because in so many ways we've been taught that we have to unwind our blocks and our unconscious programming in order to get to where we want to go. And that is a huge fallacy and a myth. We don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, doing that empowers more blocks and more, yeah.
Yep. Exactly what you said. I mean, there are those times when it does feel in alignment for you to go there to clear that. But I just, if there's some sort of resistance in my energy, I just feel through it and release it. I don't go down the never-ending maze that is the beliefs and the blocks and the mindset and the this and the that. Like, we just don't energetically have to do that anymore. Well beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're saying right now, if you want to, for the mind to have a sense of completion or a sense of peace or a sense of resolution, you don't have to do all of this work on identification and release and clearing. You just need to relax and be still. That's all. Relax as deeply as you can and let the energy neutralize and shift itself.
Yep. Yeah. Why do you think people say, or bring up the fact that acts of self-care and acts of self-love help them manifest more? It's because it's relaxing your energetic field when you step into acts of that.
Yeah. And it gets you into that feeling of beauty and empowerment and all of that.
Yep.
But your vision can take you there. That's the power of vision. Your vision can take you into those spaces. Even if you were in just the most unlikely, or not unlikely, unlikely. If you're not in ideal conditions or in an ideal environment, you can still create. So at some level of this journey or this process, you have to understand that you are the creative tool. There's nothing outside of yourself that you need. You start empowering a new vision, a new reality, and you fix your attention on that vision and you do not let it waver. You hold that vision. And that's where like the fortitude and the will power is required, is in holding that vision, because that's what can be the most challenging for most people, is to hold that. It's a mental alertness, a mental sharpness, a mental agility that is required to hold that, and then to be in the energy of it, be in the energy of that vision, that expanded vision that you have for yourself. Yeah, that's that energy. That's the yeah, you feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
Living expanded. And that was a massive shift for me, because so many parts, it was like an addiction I had to unwinding my patterns. It was an addiction that I had to needing to go back and work out and analyze and dissect. And it had such a strong hold on me. It was like I could not set it down. It was really literally like an addiction to pain, is what they're saying. Being addicted to my pain and digging up my pain and exploring my pain and needing to unravel and unwind my pain, when they were just like, set that shit down and shift your attention in this new direction. And it was a huge shift for me because the pull of it was so strong, that I had to retrain myself in new directions. I literally had to train myself to focus new.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I just want to add this before we go too. Like, this speaks to all of the light and dark energy talk that we've been speaking to, is the fact that, you know, why it's okay to play in your dark energy now is the darkness is not being driven from that painful state.
Right. Not at all. I freaking appreciate the darkness so much. And that was okay, because I wanted to expand my energetic influence, because I was recognizing how quickly things were manifesting for me in the light. So I wanted to expand into the darkness too, fully. And that was an integration that I invoked for myself. And because then I can embody all of me, and that expands my energetic influence and my capacity to create magic, because not only am I calling upon all that is, I'm calling upon all energy and all forces. I'm not just calling upon, and there's a respect there, there's a reverence, there's an appreciation for that portion of creation as well as the light, because I was like, I'm able to create beautifully in the light and rapidly in the light. Well, imagine how much more powerfully and profoundly I could create if I could learn how to not fear the darkness anymore, but become one with it in the same way that I had become one with the light. And so there's no resistance to those aspects of myself or creation anymore. I find them quite intriguing, is the word that comes up. I'm fascinated by the mystery and all of the beautiful creatures that inhabit it. I respect them for being who and what they are. And that, therefore, my influence is expanded.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Are you feeling complete?
Yeah, I'm good. Like, want to go play with those energies.
Yeah. I think one things I just want to close with is to stand fully in your power, stand fully in your knowingness. And I've seen a few things recently around not knowing. And that's a part of the journey, right? Is to be in the not knowing. But ultimately, in order to be in your creator source energy, you have to live in your knowing. That is why at the Delphi, or the Oracle at Delphi, said, know thyself, and thou shalt know all the mysteries of the gods in the universe. At some point, you have to expand into your knowingness and live in your knowingness, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It is not a lack of humility to step into that place. It is claiming your power and your role as creator. And it's essential to holding that expanded space and that expanded energy. So really anchoring and grounding that in, I am that I am, that I am, and not being afraid to fully step into and embody that.
And know that you know all things. You are all knowing. You are all creator. You are the universe and beyond. And so in any place where you are unclear or you're just not knowing, just command and tell yourself, remind yourself that you know. That's it. I mean, any place of lack of clarity, just stop. I know the answer. I know the calling. I know the command. I know what I want. I know, and that's it. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I think that the energy that I feel around that, fear of stepping all the way into that, because that would mean that you are responsible That would mean that you're fully responsible for every single thing in your creation. The power of that, not being able to turn to any other source except thyself anymore. That's a big one for people. That feels vulnerable for a lot of people. To step. They're bringing me back to that phrase in the Bible around not drinking milk anymore, but eating meat. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's kind of like, like
what?
But it's about maturing into the full embodiment of all that you are, and not needing a mother father figure outside of yourself anymore, but being that fully. Yeah. And that can feel vulnerable for a lot of people because you're stepping into your full power, your full embodied power.
Yeah, but that's the risk you have to take on yourself. That's the risk.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go there. You'll never feel satisfied unless you do. So it will occur at some level of expansion, but I was just feeling into the reasons why people don't select that for themselves, and that they will fight for that limitation too.
Sure.
Until,
but
yeah.
It didn't shift until I just got tired enough and just said, I'm just going to decide to know. Like, enough dissecting and wormhole creating and, dabbling in the pain and whatever. And it just was like never ending. I'm like, okay, I just know now. I just know. I got to trust it now.
Fuck it, I'm going in. I'm going in.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I know I had a hunger for that full embodiment, that full empowerment, being fully in my power, being sovereign. I had a hunger for that freedom. And so, I claim it fully. I own it fully. And we are open to welcoming and inviting others who are ready and willing to step into that space. You will never have to doubt yourself or your ability to create or manifest or command your reality ever again. You will never have to give your power away to anyone or anything or any element or any deity ever again.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And so it is.
So play with that this weekend, you guys.
We love you. Yeah, I hope you guys all have an amazing, restful, joyful, eventful, beautiful, fun, empowering weekend. And we will meet you back here on Monday. If you are not already a member of the Inner Circle, visit either of our websites. We'll drop the links in the comments starting on November the 1st. 8 powerful women, 1 sacred space. Come join us.
Yes. Come join us.
Okay. All right. I love you. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.